You may be wondering when the best time is to repot your plant or even how to do it and what soil to use. I'm going to answer all those questions for you and show you some things to think about before repotting. Hi, I'm Debbie with Lively Root. If you just received your plant from Lively Root, I would caution you to wait at least 6 weeks for it to recover from the ride to your house. Your plant may be under some stress due to the weather or being in a box, so let it rest, settle in before repotting it. After you've received your plant and have it a while, you may want to get it out of the grower pot and into a decorative container. If it's not outgrown the grower pot, then you can choose something close to the same size as the existing pot, but be sure to have adequate drainage. Now, if you've had your pot several years and they're getting too crowded, overgrown, or root bound, that would be another reason to repot. But remember, some plants like to be root bound. They push out more growth, so check out our website under the plant you have for helpful information beforehand. Offhand, plants like peace lilies, spider plants, African violets, aloe, snake plants, ZZs, and Boston ferns all like to have a little bit more cozy roots. But if you see roots growing out of the drainage holes, it's time to repot. And believe it or not, some plants need smaller pots. If your evil twin planted them in too big of a pot like mine did. When this happens, the soil doesn't dry fast enough and it can cause excess moisture in which your particular plant may not like as much. I've seen some plants too big for their britches, meaning that they are so big they can't be tipped over and repotted. So in that case, you have to skim off the old soil on top very carefully not to harm the roots and then replenish with topsoil. The first step is to choose a container for your plant baby. If your plant is full and gushing over with foliage and getting crowded, then bump it up 2 inches wider in size. This plant is an African violet that I propagated last fall, and I stuck several starts in this pot thinking I would divide later. Well, now is later, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to divide this into 3 separate pots. In this case, I'll follow through with the same size pot, but they'll all have more room to grow. I will be using a terracotta pot for my violets because they're more breathable and allow the air to circulate the root system and dry out more quickly. They'll also absorb water, as I like to bottom water these. The leaves on African violets are fuzzy and don't like to get wet, or they can cause water spots on the leaves. I've cut a piece of window screen you can get at your local hardware store to cover the bottom of the container. This helps the soil not to fall through the hole as easily and clog it up. If you're reusing decorative containers, be sure and wash them with hot, sudsy water and let dry. I like to wipe mine out with a Clorox wipe to remove any lingering bacteria or fungus that could have been left behind on the old planting. Planting with the correct type of soil is essential. Some plants like different combinations. I like to find the appropriate mix for my indoor plants. Normally, I would use our black gold potting mix for most of my plants, but there are mixes for African violets, orchids, succulents, cacti, and palm. Some gardeners like to mix up their own, but I like someone else to do it for me, so I go with a pre-mixed. For my African violet, I'll use an especially formulated mix with lots of drainage materials that provide a lofty mix. When receiving the plant, do not repot immediately, but wait at least 6 weeks or until the spring. If you repot too soon after receiving your new plant from Lively Root and it gets stressed, you'll lose your 30-day warranty, so be cautious. Plants really need to get acclimated to their new living conditions. Remember, these plants are coming out of optimum conditions in a greenhouse. They're rotting in a closed box for days and arrive in a new environment with perhaps different lighting conditions and temperatures. So you'll want to let it go through a reset period. You don't want to rustle their roots at this point until they are settled in and comfortable and make adjustments to their new environment. Once you've had it a while and spring rolls around and you are ready to repot due to one of the reasons I just listed, it's time to replant. I like to have everything I need in one place before starting, so the job is simpler. Here's what I use. I gather all my plants that I want to repot. I get my gloves, and yes, I like to keep the nails looking good. I get my watering can and water. I get my proper soil mix and any additives I'm going to add. A potting tray to help me keep down the mess. My trowels and tools. A paintbrush that I'm going to be using later to clean off the leaves afterwards. A bucket for water drainage, and a shallow bowl, and moss or colored rocks are optional. Now, let's get started. I always water my plants before I transplant them the night before, so this one's fully hydrated and ready to move. These violets are starts from last fall and they're needing more space to grow, so I'm going to transfer them into their own pots. I have 3 in here and I'll demonstrate how to transplant one of them into its own pot. I'm going to use my little bitty garden tools I use for miniature gardens to help out with this task. Normally you'll want to measure your existing container to get 1 to 2 inch bigger pot in width for transplanting. If you go too big, the soil will dry slower, which is not helpful for some plants, and it could develop diseases and rot the root. So I've chosen pretty small planters since these are still babies. I traced the bottom and made a pattern and cut the screen out. I put the screen in the bottom that I've cut to fit. Then I'm adding some potting mix to the bottom of the pot. You'll want to add enough so that the top of the soil is sitting below the container's lip, so when you water, it doesn't spill over the soil and water makes a mess every time you water. So you'll have to judge how much soil depth you'll need to build up under its roots. Since this one is a baby, it won't have a deep root system yet, so I'll need to build it up a bit more than I usually would with a regular transplant. I'm going to use a clean knife or this small trowel to wedge between the pot and the soil will loosen. I'm dividing this one into sections, so I'll separate each section and carefully lift it out of this pot into its new home. Usually I take a peek at its roots to make sure they're healthy and thriving. If you see black or rotting roots, you've got a problem and will need to remove the rotting parts with a sterile knife or scissors and keep disinfecting your tools so you don't spread infection to other parts of the plant. These are still small and look healthy. Add more soil and backfill around the sides by tamping down. Fill up to the soil line but not over. Then water thoroughly, leaving the soil damp but not soggy. For African violets, I pour a bowl of water and let them soak up the water from below. But most indoor plants can water from above if the leaves of the plants aren't delicate or have special needs. As African violets grow, the older leaves may be removed as newer ones form, and this will leave a bare stem closer to the soil. So I'm going to remove these longer stems and clip them off with some sterile pruners, which I can use for propagation later. I like to place a large clear plastic baggie over the planter to help create humidity. The roots will reestablish quicker this way. Check the moisture level each week to ensure it has adequate water with your 3-in-1 water meter. After 6 weeks, remove the bag and set it in a bright to medium indirect light. To add a decorator touch, you can add moss, decorative glass, or rock to the soil whenever you like. I hope this helps you feel more comfortable transplanting your indoor plants into new containers to give them room to thrive and grow. If you're needing soil and fertilizer products or the 3-in-1 meter I mentioned or a new plant for your home or office space, visit us at livelyroot.com. We have dozens of wonderful indoor plants, bulbs, landscape plants, and pet-friendly plants for your fur babies. We also will help you along the way as you nurture your new plant with our continuing education like this and articles on how to care for your plants. Plus, we have online support so you can send in your plant care questions when you buy a plant from us. We offer free shipping and a 30-day guarantee from the purchase date to be healthy and arrive in good condition. Take care of your plants, and until next time, have a lively day.